And yeah, somebody asked me, yeah, Prasanna, like, did your thing um, navigation action mapping? Okay, that's a URL. So let me start. Um, let me start the Eclipse. So today we'll be starting the Spring Application Framework. So now till now, like we saw like MVC based framework, like that's a front end framework, right? Like in the MVC layer, we worked on the front end part till now. So now like we would be looking at a layer, a application platform, application framework, which covers a whole lot of stuff, like whole lot of like overall like application level things. Okay, so the Spring is nothing but it's a plug and play technology, plug and play architecture. Okay, so now like you can integrate it. The Spring itself like has like many modules inside it. Like it's at like very huge number. I mean, not sorry, that's an exaggeration. So it's like a set of modules basically. So each module would be acting upon certain layer of your application. Let's say Spring. Spring IOC is a base for everything. Okay, the Spring IOC is a base. So let's go to okay. Um, where was I? Yeah, Spring application. So the Spring framework. So you need to go to the Spring. What is this? Yeah, Spring. This particular website. Okay, for downloading the Spring. So you can download the current version is like 4. This is the current version, Spring 4 version. So you can download that particular thing. That's not a problem. Usually right now, everybody is working on Spring 3 dot something. Okay. So like 4 is like latest version. And you have a documentation over here. So Spring has like certain modules, right? So these are all the different modules basically for the Spring. So the Spring IOC is the base version of the Spring. So let me. Oh, these are the Spring projects actually. So that's fine. So this is the one that we are looking for, but I'm looking for. You can refer to Spring 3, that's not a big problem. So you can also go with the Spring 4 documentation, but go with the Spring 3 documentation basically because that is the. Yeah, I think this is the latest one that they are providing, but yeah, don't go with like Spring 2, 2 and 2.5. So go from Spring 3.0 version. Okay, so now like what is the Spring actually? So Spring runs on like a design pattern called inversion of control. So before going to that particular thing, the Spring code, let's go to a Spring block diagram. Okay, this one. Okay, so this is a Spring block diagram, the base. Okay, so I mean not the base. So these are the different Spring frameworks modules that we would be really using a lot at work. But there are like some other modules, as I showed you, like all these particular things. So you have like many more. Okay, so but the thing is like you won't be using a lot. Solar is for Elasticsearch. There's like a big data Hadoop concept, and this for Android, and you have like Flex, you have Hadoop, Apache Hadoop, Solar and Apache Hadoop. You're down, I mean, recording the class, right?
Kumar, there was Sanna, you are also recording?
I don't know.
Well,
Oh, you're recording. Okay, fine.
yeah, yesterday I actually recorded entirely, but the entire length of the file was approximately 5 GB. That's why I didn't start it today.
Yeah, the length would be that only. Yeah.
I mean, is there any way to compress? Because I
No,
tried compressing it, but
no, there's no way. It would be very huge.
uh,
Okay, so that's fine. So now these are the basic frameworks, and the Spring Core is a base for everything. So this is the main framework that you have to use, which runs like which would be used by all other frameworks to run. Okay, all other modules to run. So what is a Spring Core? Like you have an inversion of control and dependency injection. So these two are like some sort of like a design patterns and the architectural principles. Somebody got lost again. Okay, fine. So these two are some sort of like an architectural principles or a design pattern. So what is a dependency injection? So it's about injecting an object which is having a dependency, okay, which acts as a dependency. So injecting all the dependencies. So injecting in the sense you're creating an object. Okay, so the Spring application framework by itself, by defaultly, it will create an object for you. So there is no need so in your web applications, like till now, like wherever we saw, like in our web applications, what we did was like once you go to the servlet, like you would be instantiating a class too for the business layer, right? Right or wrong? Instantiating in the sense like business layer is a layer object equal to new business layer. So that's how like you would be doing, right? Remember?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's no need for you to literally do that. So I can wire up all these particular layers along with the dependencies so that there is no need for you to literally create the objects. So that's called like a dependency injection. It's a way of injecting all the dependencies basically. Okay, and it uses the inversion of control architecture principle. Okay, those two relate to each other. So now let's see like what is exactly like dependency injection. So let's create a basic project, a core Java project. Spring test. Okay, so I'm working with the core Java project, and I need the dependencies for this particular guy. So dependencies in the sense the Spring application, Spring dependencies. Okay, so I need to download them. They change this website a lot. Spring Framework, and yeah, so download all this. Not Maven. Oh, shit. Oh, over here, like you have a reference over here. Sorry, I was searching some other way. Yeah, you can go with this version. Okay, so you can start reading this one. So now, just a second. How do I need to download this guy? I have only Maven. I need a Maven root. Thing is, like, he's using a Maven, but I don't want to use a Maven. I want to download this guy with using. Okay, fine. Let me do something. Let me check if Maven is installed. Actually, I want to tell. Just a second, guys. My manager is calling. Hey, Deb. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I gave Venki all the details regarding the alert inbox exceptions and everything. But the thing is, like that exception, I saw that exception in the URL. So the Apache servers, the exception, yeah, in master alerts.log, we have an exception with respect to the portal, and in alerts VM, in alerts.log, we have an actual exception, like when we hit the service, right? So the exception is about some calculating something. Like I don't exactly remember that exception. It's some code issue actually. So it's going into the code. It's throwing some. I'm not sure because like when I saw the logs, like we were getting data, and sometimes like we were getting an exception. But it's not an Apache issue for sure, because when we got an exception, we were getting a 200 response code from Apache. So that's the coding issue. Yeah, Swapnil already sent an email to the offshore team, so they will. Yeah, that's what he said to me. Oh no. Okay, let me send it. I'll. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Sure. Yeah. I'll send it like within a couple of hours. Within one. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Okay. No problem. Sorry, guys. Okay. So this I don't know like why these guys are not giving actually. This Maven is fine, but I don't want to use Maven right now. Uh, They changed on this website.
Can we run the same Java code on GIT?
GIT? GIT
GI,
is
yeah,
JIT compiler, right?
yeah.
It's in the JVM. So,
Is it possible?
oh, you are asking JIT or GIT?
GIT. This
Run. Yeah, I'll tell you afterwards.
okay.
But let's see what. Shit. Oh, you're recording the class, right? Okay. Don't show this class to anyone, okay?
It's Prasanna, not me. Prasanna is recorded today.
Yeah, Prasanna.
Yeah.
It's okay, one show to everyone.
This is the first time I'm referring how to download a zip file. Oh. Okay, so they changed the download methodology. Okay, cool. I got it. So I'll tell you like what is Maven afterwards. So I don't want to go into that details. So that's why. Okay. I don't know how to do this actually. Yes, GIT. Hmm. It's very. Huh. Okay, I got this repo. Okay, fine. So everything is being downloaded using this. Okay, so this is the Spring Core framework. So basically, by defaultly, they are asking us to download everything using Maven right now. So it's been a while I saw that. I couldn't figure it out. Okay, fine. So this is the way that you have to download this one. So for now, so let's go. I'm not sure if these are the things. No, like I'm a bit skeptical for this, guys. Yeah, I think it should be good distribution, right? Yeah, I think it should be good. So, okay, fine, cool. Okay, so all these are the dependencies for our Spring jars. These are all the Spring jar dependencies, basically. Okay, so with respect to like the Spring core, you would be having a Spring core. So the Spring core is the one like which is particular. What do you call this one? The Spring core will contain all the binary distributions. Binary distribution in the sense like all the class files, and you have sources and you have Java docs. So there's a waste of memory, but when you go over here, distribution, they did not give me, yeah, they gave me everything in one jar. So I need to separate it out. Okay, fine, it doesn't matter. So now, like in order to provide this particular thing as a dependency, I'll do one thing. I'll just create my library over here. Let's not populate all this stuff with Spring. Let me create one library. New, not new. How to create library? Build path, and a library, user library. Oh, add the external jars that were present in my downloads. Right. Here's the library. Where is that library? Okay, let me copy this. Why this guy is not able to see? What is happening today? Okay, so it contains all the jars now. So all the jars I kept in the build path. So fine, finish and click OK. So now like the spring has been added to our build path. Okay, so remember one thing, like we don't need everything. Okay, so I just kept everything. So we just need this core and some jars. Okay, so it's core, context, and some testing things. Yeah, that's it. I think core should be enough, but along with core, like you need these beans, aspects, AOP also. So that's why like I just kept everything. So it doesn't matter. Okay. So now, like, what is a bean injection basically? So what happens is, so the Spring Application Framework will look for a context file. I mean, the context file, the configuration file. So in the Spring world, it's called like application context.xml. Okay, so let me create that particular file. I mean, you can name that particular file as anything. So I'm just putting it as an application context.xml file. Oh, it's in source. Okay, that's fine. Let it be in the class path. Okay, so if it is in the source folder, like it is in the class path. Okay, so now like I need to pull down like what is a XML DTD for the Spring application context.xml for version 4, because we are using 4, right? So it's the unnecessarily downloaded 4. 4 we are very much new actually. I'm not sure about DTD versions. I need to refer to the documentation. So still let's do something. Let's play with it. They oh shit. Okay, so they are using. Okay, let me try. I might be running into problems now, but that's fine. It's okay. Let's see how to do it. Problem is they changed the website, so it's been a while I saw this website. This is what I was looking for. Okay, so we need this XST basically. So I'm not sure if it works with Spring 4.0 because like we are using a Spring 4.0 dependency. So let me check that particular thing. Okay, so let's check. Like if it has a problem, like it will be having a problem. That's fine. It's okay. So now, like you define everything in this particular context file. Okay, it's an application context file. So, like, what is a thing of like dependency injection? Let's see, as this particular diagram over here, they show the Spring container. You are all your business objects that you would be providing. The Spring container will be creating all those objects, and they are fully configured basically. So you can readily use all your business components. There's no need for you to instantiate them specifically. So how to do that? We'll see now. Let's go to package. Because why I'm like a bit waving, because like the thing is every version they change a lot. So you need to be very careful when you're changing even one minor version. So this is like, we downloaded a version called 3.3.2. something, right? So this particular guy is a 3.3 version is a major version. This is a minor release. Okay, 2 is a minor release. That's called like a minor release. So when for example, like in your project, like if you're using 3.2.4, and if you want to move to 3.3 or 3.2.6, that's a very big migration. They will literally, because the thing is like you write a lot of code in certain way. When they change the versions, these open source softwares will be changing a lot of stuff basically. So you need to be very careful whenever you're using the versions. So I did not work on 4.0 version at all. Like I worked on 3.0 version. And also Java based like XML based configuration. So if you want to put it in like an XML based configuration, so you need to create an XML file like with this particular DTD, and you would be creating all these particular beans basically. Okay, so how do you instantiate a container is this one. Okay, so refer this documentation, like you will understand, like I read this only. Okay, so you can understand like whatever documentation, I mean all this particular thing, it's not a problem. So now, like, let's go to our example. So we already created a Spring application config.xml over here. So now let me write a account object, account business, account validation service. So this is a validation layer that I'm just providing an example. So account shit, there's a problem package. Sorry guys, today I'm a bit com.google.test. What do you call account validation service. Okay, so I just have this account validation service. So now in this particular class I would be having a dependency. So let's say a basic example. Before going over here, let me just have a basic account object. The account object has private string account ID. Okay, forget about the account validation service for now. That would be a bit complicated for you. And account name. Okay, I have the setters and the getter methods. Okay, so now like I want to declare, I can declare this particular thing as a bean. Okay, so I'm asking the Spring application to automatically create the account.java. So how do I do that? So whatever you configure over here, everything will be created by the Spring Core framework. There's a bean tag. So the bean, the basic bean. So ID is equal to account. I'm just telling like account, okay? And now like I would be having a type or class. Type. It's class. Okay, class equal to what is the thing? Com dot google dot test dot account. Okay, that's a bean. So now what I'll do is in a test.java, I have a for called test.java. Public stack. Okay, so I have this particular class. So usually what you do is, forget about all MVCs and everything. So usually what you do is like you create an object. So how do you create an object? Anyone? For account class? How do you create an object? Hello?
Yeah.
How do you create an object?
Of account type?
Yeah.
Account, right? Account. Give any reference variable and a reference variable and equals to new account.
Yeah. So this is how like you create an object. So now, basically there's no need for you to do this particular thing because you will ask the Spring to create the object for you. Okay. So you would be getting the getting the instance of an object from the Spring directly. You won't be creating by yourself. Okay, so how to do that? So we already configured this account object in Spring Application Framework. So now like we need to load the Spring application context.xml. So how we load is you have something called application context. So the application context is the one like which will holds the context with respect to the Spring data. So the parent of this particular guy is Bean Factory. When you go to the API, the parent of this particular thing is interface is extends. What's the Bean Factory? Yeah. So this is a Bean Factory. All the super interfaces is the Bean Factory. So this Bean Factory is the parent of everything, basically. Okay. So this is the parent interface of everything. So this Bean Factory, using this Bean Factory is nothing but where it's a factory of beans, where the beans will be created. That's why it's called Bean Factory. So application context is a super class of the Bean Factory. Okay, so now in order to load all your beans that you defined in the application context.xml, you would be loading the application context.xml using Spring. I'll just do equal to, because my file is in a class path, so I'll be having a class path application context config location. So I'll use this constructor. So I want to give a config location for this particular class path. So it will automatically search for the class path for this particular file. So what is the file name? Application context.xml file. Okay, so now let's see like if this particular config context is null or not. Okay, else it won't print anything. Okay, so I think it loaded it. Oh no, thank you. Okay, so now it's asking me to put this log factory. So we already downloaded the log factory, right? I think in JSF project. Let me put that jar. Okay, see over here. What it said was the Spring XML bean reader load bean definitions, loading the XML bean definitions from class path file, this particular guy. So it loaded the XML. So now in this particular guy, like there's no need for you to literally create this particular object. So this object has already created a bean dot, I mean the beans that you have defined in an application context. So as I defined the account object in it, like it automatically created the account object. So now what you do is account is equal to my context dot get bean by ID. Actually, yeah, get bean of the bean ID, and you will be doing a typecast. Okay, so you can just set account ID as something. Okay, it should not give a null pointer now. So if it is giving a null pointer, it's not loaded correctly because we are not doing a new, right? It did not. It worked fine. So now, like, what is exactly happening? Like, what is this doing actually? So this is like a bean creation. So what is a dependency injection? So the dependency injection is something like if an account has a check object inside it, and also this is also an object, a string object. So now it is how is it automatically injecting the values into this particular guy? Something like if it is a variable, anything variable or an object or any kind of things will be directly injected, which has the, because this particular account is dependent on these particular guys, so it will automatically inject all these particular guys also. So let's say like if I have a check object, check, okay, forget about that for now. So like how is it doing? So basically the Spring works on two injections. One is a setter injection. You can use a setter injection and you can use a getter injection. Sorry, a constructor injection. There is a getter injection also, but Spring doesn't support it. Okay, so what are the setter injection and the constructor injection basically? So over here, I can provide the ID, account ID, a value. Okay, so how can I do that? In an application context.xml, in the bean, I can define a property, say account ID. Okay, account ID. I can provide a value to it. That means whenever it's creating an object called account, it's also creating the dependency of this particular account. Okay, so it's automatically injecting it. So that's called like dependency injection. Okay, so now like if you want to print this particular object set ID now. Okay, it will print that account ID over there. So it's automatically injected. So the thing is like whatever configuration that you're keeping in a bean.xml, it is so before going to the check, what is it injecting? Like because how is it injecting this particular variable? So basically it's using the setter method by default, and it's setting this particular account ID whenever it's creating an account object. That's called like a setter injection. And you can also use with a constructor injection. Let's say like you have account constructor and you have a parameterized constructor. So let's say, how to go with constructors? Okay, so this is a parameterized constructor, right? For a particular account object. So you can also use this constructor to inject the elements basically. Okay, we will see that afterwards. So now that's called like setter injection and the constructor injection. So now, what about like if I have like another object called check object? So any time like over here, like I'm not instantiating any sort of an object. Name equal to check ID, and over here it's value, some value, something like this. Okay, so now the reference over here, it would be having a check, the ID that you are creating. So now like whenever you create an object called account, the check object will automatically be created. So now let's see, I can go here, get check dot get check ID. I'm injecting everything through the Spring, right? So run as. See, it gave me the thing is like it did not give me a null pointer exception whenever I did this particular guy, because this particular guy is not null. Since over here, like it's a null basically, right? The default value, but Spring automatically injected that particular object into the when it was creating an account object basically. Got it? Everyone, this is the base for everything. Okay, so now like how do you use this particular thing in a web application? So in a web application, what happens is, let me copy this file. let's go to the JSF application, okay, or structs or anything, it doesn't really matter. So now you will be placing all your configuration files somewhere in the web.inf web.inf folder, okay. So along with this configuration files, like you will be placing this particular file. So now in order to load this particular Spring in a web application, you need to define a listener, a listener in the web.xml. So let me refer to the configuration for that class. I don't remember that class. It's some sort of like context load listener. Spring web.xml. I don't want MVC. Not MVC. I don't want MVC. Okay, this one. These two parameters, basically I told you, right, like context loader listener. So this is the one like you need to configure in a Spring. Everything is in a documentation, okay? So I'm not copying anything. So in a web.xml, like you need to place these parameters. Like context param is equal to like where this particular file is there, and a listener, whenever like a particular listener is invoked, it will be invoked for each and every aspect, right? So you would be configuring a listener context load listener that is provided by the Spring Application Framework. So now what happens is this, it's wrong, right? So you can put like multiple values, like you can split all your beans. Like if you have like many amount of beans, like in application context.xml, you would be liking it to, you would be like splitting the particular file into many files, right? So you can do that actually. Okay, so for now, like I'm just putting it in a web.inf folder. So now like whenever I load this particular, let's see, like because all the classes that I mentioned over here are not in this particular project, it should create a problem for me. It will throw me all the errors basically. So whenever I deploy this application in any web application, so refer to some sort of like exception, bean not defined, no bean defined exception, something like that. You will be getting some sort of like exceptions. Oh, okay. Error configuring application listener of class, web app class loader. Shit. Spring 4 is giving a problem, I guess. Okay, so it's telling me that this particular guy is not present. Let's go to web context thing. Okay, so what's happening over here? Can anybody tell me? I forgot something over here. Can anybody tell me with the error?
You need to install something.
No.
He's asking for a listener.
Yeah. So this particular file is looking for this particular context loader listener class, right? This particular application, whenever it's deploying, it's asking you that it's telling you that it is not able to find this particular loader listener that you have configured like it is loading this listener. It's trying to instantiate this listener. So it's not able to find this class. What's happening actually? What is the exception?
A class not found.
What does it mean?
Well, it was not able to find. The class does not exist either.
Yeah, where does the class exist?
I mean, in the source we create.
No, this is a Spring jar.
Oh, okay.
You need to read and understand. This is a Spring jar.
Okay.
So what should I do now? Where are all the Spring jars?
In the library.
Yeah. So you need. I forgot
Yeah,
to add
user
the
libraries.
libraries basically. That's why it's add library. Oops, sorry. Add library. User library. Spring. Finish. Okay. So now I added the library to the build path. Now like it should work. Now it will complain. So now it would be loading the application context.xml, but still like it complained about certain things. What is that now? Oops, gone. Okay, fine. It's the same thing, so it's still not able to find the class. Okay, fine. Let me kick that in directly. Okay, now it got loaded. Now we got some other exception. What is the exception? Can anybody resolve this one? Can anybody tell me what's happening now? Just read it, like you will understand, right? You are
Bean class is not found.
what?
It is written cannot load a bean class exception.
Where did you see that?
That's highlighted in blue.
No. Read this particular thing.
Oh,
What?
okay.
What is happening? What did?
You cannot find account.
Pardon me?
You cannot find the account.
Yeah. So application context is being loaded actually, right? That's defined over here, and it's trying to prepare all this your account objects. I mean, all your beans basically that you define. So now, because the classes are not in here, it's complaining me. Okay, add the classes. So it's not able to find those classes basically. Okay, so I added these classes. Now, like it should be fine. Now it loaded all your things. So there are no exceptions. So it loaded all the application context beans and stuff basically. So it's root, web application context, initialized, completed in this time. Okay, and afterwards the JSF got loaded. Okay, so now like how do you like call these account objects and stuff basically in JSF, or else like in servlet or anything. So what you do is, so whenever your application context.xml is being loaded in a web application, the context loader listener that you configured in the web.xml, it will automatically load the application context.xml, and it will put all the instances of all the beans in a servlet context. So you heard right, it's servlet context. Okay, so a servlet context will be indirectly holding all the instances of the beans that you define basically. So you can call the servlet context. So now in JSF, like you would be doing, you would be calling all your action methods, business validation methods, and everything in your what do you call this, manager beans, basically manager bean action, right? So over here, like once you, for example, like the business layers over here, so once you are complete with your validation or anything, there's no need for you to literally instantiate the business layer. Rather, like you can directly ask the Spring Framework, okay, give me this particular class type of this particular name, of bean type of this particular name, and I will be executing with my process. So that's how it works basically. So in order to retrieve the particular bean, like in JSF, you need to get hold of the servlet context. For how do you get the servlet context in JSF? Faces servlet dot get dot no, it's faces config dot dot, sorry guys, context only, dot get current instance dot get external context dot get we're having a servlet context. So get. I think the get context. Okay, so you would be for web application context utils, that's a Spring, dot get web application context of a particular servlet context. Now this particular guy will be returning you the web application context or else application context. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so anything is a context over here. Application context, app context is equal to application context. Okay, so now what you can do is you can use this application context being of account. You will be doing it at first. Okay, that's it, done. So now I want to print this a dot get account get check. We compare get check. Okay, so now like if you are if you're running this web application, it will automatically pull everything from your server. I mean, from the application context basically. So let's see how it works. Okay. What is the next on this? Cannot find. Okay, that's fine. That was previously. Why did it not? 345 got username as okay. It did not go into that loop actually because I wrote some other stuff. So let me, because this particular check is failing. So let me write this particular guy outside the loop. Because I modified some components while I was teaching you the JSF, so it did not. It doesn't matter. So anyway, it has to give the value. See, just printed the check ID, right? So this is how like you would be injecting everything. So now basically in JSF, like I mean, this is just an example that I have given you. Okay, so how do we actually use this particular thing? So over here, like what I said was, we use all these business objects, right? So let's say, as I told you, like once your authentication is done, we would be calling your business objects, right? We'll be calling all your business objects. Now, what you do is, you have all these validations. Username validator, this utility, it doesn't matter, it's the utility. Or else like, where is this MVC based stuff that I gave you? Oh, that is in different project. Okay. Okay, basically if it contains all this particular stuff. Okay. I don't need a controller, so yeah. Okay, fine. So I have this particular business validation layers. So now you will go to the business validation layer interface. So I need an, oops, did I delete that? Shoot. Okay, fine. It doesn't matter. So now, like I'll be creating a business validation interface. Chats. This is an implementation file, right? So you would be implementing your valid with while register or something. So technically you would be calling this validation layer in your manager bean. So what you would be doing, usually what you would be doing is you would be creating an object for this implementation and then like you would be calling. So now you won't be doing that. So you would be placing everything in your web application context basically. Application context.xml. You'll be having a bean id is equal to login validator, okay, login register validator, something like that. And now that you would be having a class which would be pointing to this guy. Okay. Interface, what is the class name? IMP. This is a class basically. So now like you are ready to use this particular guy. So now like you're eligible, you're ready to use this particular guy. So now like what you do is in your manager bean in index, so instead of creating instead of doing a new, writing the same thing, something like this. Okay. Why? What is the implementation class name? Interface IMP, right? Why it's not coming? Where did I create that? Okay, I create that in now. This one. Okay, something like this. There is no need for you to do this one. So the Spring is automatically loading everything, all the beans that you define. So what you would be doing is like it is already loaded. Okay, so you would be doing application context dot get bean of that particular name. You would be doing a type test. Got it? So now like you are good to go. So basically all these particular objects are called singleton objects. So by default, the Spring will create singleton objects by default. So if you want to have a prototype, you can, you should have a prototype equal to true. Wait. Where is this prototype? This version. Just a second. Oh, okay. Okay. So why in my version it's actually at work I use prototype equal to true. But this was singleton equal to true or false. This was in 2.5 version. How they are doing in 4.0 version, I'm not sure. Destroy is in it, name, parent, primary, true. That's it. So see this kind of discrepancies will be there. So in this version, like he's using singleton equal to true, but at my work, like we use 3 dot something. We use prototype equal to true. It should be there. Oh, okay, fine. I'm so sorry. I confused. It's not prototype. It's a scope. It's a scope equal to prototype. Okay. So the scope can be singleton, prototype, request, session, and a global session. A singleton is the one, like it would be only one object instance per the container. So if you are making it as a singleton object, for whole of the requests that all the requests that the web application would be getting, whenever you log in, whenever I log in, only one object instance of this particular object will be there. So at that moment, you should not, in this particular login validator, if you are putting as a singleton, not this scope equal to prototype, if you are putting this particular thing as a singleton object, so if you have like a concurrent users, so let's say like your login register valid interface, okay? So if you are putting, in your login, in your implementation, like if you are putting anything, if you are putting any variables over here, everything will be shared because threads will be operating. There will be only one object, but multiple threads will be spawned. So the thing is, like if you have any variables, any class level variables, the threads will share those objects. So it would be a very, very drastic, very, very idiotic thing. So if you log in, like my data and your data will be clubbed. Okay, so that's why all your beans usually will be of type prototype until and unless you don't write anything over here. If you don't write anything, that's fine. Okay, but usually we prefer this prototype. I mean, it depends on the scenario, and at my work, like it really depends on the scenario. Hello, hey Sindhu, yeah. Yeah, class, I'm in the class, yeah. Yeah. No, I told you yesterday, right? Like we will be having a class. Okay, so that's why like you would be putting as a prototype. Now, this particular guy will be having dependencies. Basically, login, register, validation, interface, implementation class. This particular class would be having some sort of like a security dependency. So it would be having like security config validation. Okay, so something like that. Something like that, a security validator. So now, like, how do you inject this particular guy? So you map this particular thing over here. It's a hazard relationship, but still, like, it would be having a getters and setter methods. And in here, I'm sorry, in here you will be creating a one more bean for that particular class, and then like you would be injecting as we have injected the check object over here with the reference. So now, like, in this particular method, in this particular method, if you want to use this particular security thing, you can automatically use basically dot something. Okay, that's how like the Spring IOC works in a basic web application and also our native applications. Okay, this is a basic Spring IOC. It's very simple. The IOC is most simplest part in Spring application framework. It's one of the most very simplest part. So you would be having lots and lots of stuff when you go further. Okay, so on Saturdays, Soma asked me to come to work. To come to office. So I'll be coming there. Probably I might not be teaching anything. I'll be clearing your doubts. I'll just give an introduction, a base introduction of Hibernate. And then like we will go through each and every module, okay? So where's that block diagram? So we'll go through, okay, let me tell you about the block diagram. So the core, you understood what is a core, right? So all the things, the bean factory, container, and everything will be the core part. And AOP is an aspect-oriented programming. So you define a metadata. For example, at the runtime environment, when a particular type of method is executed, like let's say like a get account. So you're telling the compiler, you're telling the runtime environment, saying injecting an aspect. So that you're telling it, okay, like if this particular thing happens at the runtime environment, if you're about to execute a get check method, execute some other thing. Else execute some other thing. Okay, that's an aspect. So that's kind of like metadata that you're providing at the runtime environment, JVM basically. Okay, so that's an AOP. We'll go through that afterwards. And ORM is an object relationship model. This model will be integrated with Hibernate, Ubatis, and all other ORM, TopLink, and all other ORM tools, EJB3, and everything. Okay, but we will be going through the Hibernate part over here. And Spring DAO layer. A DAO is a JDBC, the native JDBC. So there's no need for you to write the native JDBC connections, class.forName, and everything. You can configure everything in the Spring, and Spring will be giving you a connection object to write all your statements and everything. And also these guys provide a template called JDBC template. So which you would be using that particular template to make all your statements, stored procedures, and whatever that you did in JDBC. So you're doing everything with respect to the Spring over here. That's what you're doing. Okay, the next thing is Spring Web. Spring Web is it contains the basic web utilities and web application context that are related with respect to your web application, the Spring MVC and web application. Okay, and Spring Context is the one like which would be containing all your remoting support, context level information, and UI support basically. So this is a Spring application context thing. Okay, and the next thing is these two things are some sort of like a utilities basically, which you would be used in these particular things internally. Okay. And this one is like Spring MVC is a servlet type of MVC based framework. Again, it's something like Spring. It will look like a Spring framework only. So it's for developing like web applications. And there is one more framework called Spring Webflow. A Webflow framework is something like you would be a Webflow is the one like which you would be integrated with JSF and struts. So we won't be. I'll be telling you about the Webflow. Webflow you won't understand a lot because too much of things. Like I don't know. Yeah, basically it would be a bit tough for you to digest everything. So I'll go through the basics of the Webflow. It's pretty easy. Or it's pretty easy actually. That's also pretty easy. So it's not a big deal. But yeah, I'll go through the Webflow in a basic way. Okay, we'll go through the MVC because MVC is the one like which you would be using a lot at the work. Okay, most of the time like you would be using MVC. Yeah, and also like you have many other stuff like Spring Batch, Spring. Let's go to Wiki. Wiki has. So you have data access layer, which works with databases, transaction management. It's the declarative transaction model in Spring. Like we would be using metadata level transactions, which includes like AOP programming. And MVC, I told you, remote access framework. It is like intercepting the RMI object and the web services basically. So you can develop a web service using Spring. Spring has a different way of creating a web service. It's the same web service, but you integrate everything using Spring basically. That's it. And you have, don't worry about this RU module. We don't be working on this. And authentication and authorization, forget about that. Like, don't worry right now because all your applications would be configured with Spring Security, not the Spring Security, but your server level securities. Okay, so at work. So it might be using a Spring along with the server based. So you have like different varieties of configurations that you would be doing. So yeah, that's one thing. And initially it was called like ACG system, ACG security, the Spring Security. Okay, so but now it's called like Spring Security. And messaging, like you can JMS. So they are like called like MDPs, message driven POJO. So you can write an MDP for receiving a message. And you have a testing framework. This is called like Spring Mock. So you would be using a Spring Mock to create your mock JUnit test. We would be looking at the JUnit test also. Okay, so yeah, that's it for today. And regarding the book, Spring is like a very, very vast. It's something like another Java, not another Java, a subset of Java, but it's pretty big framework. You have tons and tons of modules in it. Spring. Actually, you can refer to the Spring in action. Basically, this one should be good. Okay, so yeah, I skimmed down through this book actually quite a while ago. Like, don't go to Spring 4.0. Better download the latest version of 3.2. Okay, because like you would be having some sort of like configuration changes probably in the future, so it might not work as straightforward. And also like if it's a new framework, you won't be getting lots and lots of answers in Google if you search also. So that's why go with the Spring 3.2 because industry is currently on 3.2. Okay. Yeah. Okay, guys. Then read that book. Oh, sorry. Spring in action. Google for Spring in action. Okay, and this documentation. This should be good actually. I think it should be very good. Yeah. Here, like they will tell you like how is it going through all this stuff. So yeah, this one is awesome. Go read this. Okay. Sorry, like it's dumping a lot of material. I can't help much. It's very vast, so technically
it's 10 o'clock.
Yeah. Okay then. See you guys. Meet you on Saturday. Let's see how it works. Okay. Any doubts? Yeah, tell me. Yeah, so it's simple. The request will be, the HTTP request will be coming to your action servlet, right? An action servlet will be looking for the action with a path in struts-config.xml, and it will populate your form bean, and then it will go to your action. If the form bean has a validation, it will do the validation. If a validation passes, it will forward, it will proceed further. If not, like it will kick you back. And if the validation passes, like it will go and execute the action. Action will be continuing execute. So now, like, yeah, form. No, it's an action. It's not a form action. It's an action. Action can be many things. Lookup, dispatch action, and all those stuff. Whatever action, whatever method you want it to execute, it will execute. And then, like, once the execution is done, you would be sending a mapping.forward or something. That's a navigation rule. It has to go somewhere, right, after the execution? Yeah. So that's a navigation rule that you define in a struts-config.xml. That's it. That's a flow of struts. Okay? Yeah. Okay, guys, then see you.